I traveled internationally and I lived on 3 continents in my life. So in this video, I would like to share with you my checklist for the 10 tips of how to travel and how to plan your vacation. Hi, my name is Veronica. Please don't forget to support my channel by liking this video and subscribing. I constantly post videos about my travels, the vlogs, and some tips and hacks of what to pack, what to bring with you to different countries, and what to expect. So definitely click on that notification button so you get informed when the new videos come out. If you've never traveled to this country before, or maybe it's your first international trip, probably the best way to handle it, and that would be the first thing on my checklist, would be going through a travel agency. There are a bunch of them out there. For example, you can go with Gate One Travel, you can go with Friendly Planet, there's also Exotica, and some other travel agency that coordinate the trip for you. They plan your flights, they plan your hotels, they plan all of your excursions and transportation. So it's a very easy way to travel that way. Or if you're planning a cruise, the cruise line will also book everything for you. If you're traveling alone or you're a female, sometimes it's even safer or better to go through the travel agency because you're going to be with a group of people. You don't have to worry about your safety. You're going to be taking from point A to point B to your hotel, to all the attractions. Most of the time they provide all your meals and they will even stop at different places to take you shopping. So anytime when I'm not sure about a certain country or a place I would like to visit, I would go through the travel agency and maybe even check out their itineraries. Most of these travel agencies will give you the names of the hotels that they book at that destination. They will even cover the sites that they go visit or the sightseeing, the attractions, so you can pretty much follow their steps and do the same. So you can do your research and compare different providers and see what they're offering. Most of them are offering the same thing. Maybe it will be a different hotel, but the sightseeing and the itinerary will be very much close to being the same. The other tip on my list is book everything in advance. Do not wait or do not research the last minute. Yes, sometimes you can get great deals on cruises or maybe last minute destinations through the travel agencies. But if you're planning your trips, I usually plan them a year or 2 years in advance. This way you get best pricing. You have enough time to research. You can book your own excursions, or you can research the places that this travel agency will going to take you to. Or if you're on the cruise, you can research those excursions at different ports of call in advance as well. Don't book it next month unless it's an absolutely amazing deal. I like a subscription service like Travelzoo when they send you the top deals, top 20 deals every month, and you can actually research it. They collect information from different travel agencies, from the cruise lines to the airfares to different vacation packages, and you can score a really good deal. When you're planning your trip, it's also good to research the best time to go travel there. Maybe it's the winter or the summertime, depending on where you're going. Maybe it's the time when it's less busy, less tourists, and kids are back to school, so you don't have as many crowds, or it's not as crazy, not as expensive to go there. So definitely look it up, and it's easy to just Google it and find out when is the best time to go visit that specific destination. If you would like to travel to Europe and you love the beach, you love the sunshine and the warm weather, it's better to go in the summertime. If you want to have less tourists, less kids everywhere, maybe it's better to go in September because then most people are back to work and the kids are back to school. The other thing will be probably in the springtime when it is a spring break here in the United States, so you will still be able to enjoy your vacation and better weather. The other thing about Europe, and I used to book my flights to Europe all the time when I would go visit my country and visit other places in Europe, the flights to Europe are usually cheaper in the winter time and in those off-season times. Summertime, of course, is going to be more expensive. To give you an example, in the past, if I was flying to Europe during Christmas time or New Year's, the flights would cost anywhere from $600 to $1,000. On the other hand, if you were flying in the summertime, the flights would start from $1,200 up to $2,000, depending on if you're booking a direct flight or you're making a couple of stops. There is a budget airline like Play that will give you cheap flights from East Coast, Baltimore or New York to Reykjavik, Iceland, and those are fairly inexpensive round-trip flights, but they're limited. They will not feed you there. They will not give you entertainment. It is budget, so you will have to pay for extra bags, or if you bring a carry-on, or if you're checking in a bag, so you will pay extra fees, but it's still reasonable and you can still book that flight. They only fly certain days of the week, so you will have to check it out and do your research. Even if you're booking through a travel agency and everything is pre-planned for you, it is still a good idea to research some activities, because you're going to be given the free time, maybe some days on the cruise where you didn't book an excursion for a specific port. You would like to know what activities are available through a website like Viator or Expedia. You can book those things for yourself. You can go shopping, you can go to the beach, and some of those local deals can be even better than the ones that you book through your travel agency. So make a list of things you're going to see through your organized tour, and then go to the website and see what other things you could do or plan on your own. The other thing that is available to you are videos like this on YouTube. So you can look up different destinations, see what people are suggesting to see at that specific place, or things to do. And if you like something, research it on Viator and maybe book your own excursion for the day that you have available. Through people's videos and vlogs, you can also learn what are the best essentials to bring with you to a specific trip or to a specific destination. I will leave a link to my playlist as well, but you can actually do your research in advance and also purchase the items, like maybe the travel adapters, maybe the SIM card, where to get it once you get to the airport at that destination. Many people don't know this, but you can purchase a SIM card for your cell phone. They will have those booths at the airport that will advertise that you can purchase a SIM card. I was in Egypt and I was able to go to the booth, and for like $25 for a whole week of my stay in Egypt, I had a working phone. So they sold me a SIM card. It was fairly inexpensive. They inserted it for me, activated it, and I had a working phone. And when I was leaving the country, I went back to them and they switched it back to my Verizon SIM card that I took back to United States. And everything worked fine. I didn't have any issues. So it's probably a good way to go, especially if you're going to those places where you would like to have a working phone. A lot of countries, especially European countries, will have internet everywhere. In their cafes, in the airport, it's all free of charge. You can easily connect to the internet. But some countries, you have to pay for their internet, or it's very limited, especially if you're on the road, if you have to connect to the tour provider or to your guide. If you're going shopping or sightseeing, you were given 3 or 4 hours of free time in a specific town, and then you have to return and maybe you get lost. So it's good to have a working phone. The other thing that is very important to research in advance would be the medications. Just because some countries, if you're going to high altitudes, like I went to Peru, I needed the altitude medication. Otherwise, I was constantly dizzy and feeling like I was out of breath, out of oxygen. Or if you're going on the cruise, you need maybe motion sickness meds. It's good to have medications with you, because once you arrive to that country, you might not have access to the meds, or even if you go to their local pharmacy, they will have their own medications. And the pharmacist might not understand what you're trying to achieve or what you're trying to do. They might not even speak English or your language. So it will be really hard to find what you really need for that specific trip. So you have to plan those things in advance. You have to research the meds that you will need to bring with you. For example, with my trip to India next month, I researched that I will need to bring medications for my upset stomach, because the foods there will be very different from the foods in the United States. I will have to worry about diarrhea or constipation, or I might even need to bring antibiotic with me for the stomach bug. I will be making a separate video about it next month when I come back, and I'm going to share those ideas with you. But for this specific video, I just wanted to share this example with you, that the meds that I'm going to bring with me will be specific to any kind of stomach bugs or indigestion. The next thing that you should definitely consider when planning a trip is look into your passport, making sure you have a valid passport that will not expire in the next 6 months to 12 months period of time. Because when you're planning ahead, and if you're traveling to a specific country, this is a requirement to have your passport valid for at least 6 months around your trip time. The other thing is, most countries will require you to get a visa. Even if you're booking it with a travel agency, they will not buy a visa for you unless you pay for that specific service. If you go through their services, a lot of times it's really overpriced. If you're going to buy a visa on your own, it could cost you anywhere between $25 to $50 on the embassy website. But if you're buying it through their specific channel, it can cost you anywhere from $160 to $300 per person. So it's usually worthwhile to research the visa on your own and purchase it on your own as well. Some visas will be good for just a week or 2 weeks of your travel time. The other visas can be good for up to 90 days or up to 12 months with multiple entries. Just look into that, see what you need, and you have to plan this in advance because most cruise ships or the travel agencies will not do it for you, and they will give you that heads up that you will have to acquire your own visa. The next item on my list is travel vaccinations and medical insurance. If you have insurance in the United States, or if you're traveling from different places like Canada and Europe, you might expect that your medical insurance will cover your trip, but that's not true. Some countries will even have a requirement of you purchasing medical insurance for travel, because if you're in their country and something happens to you, you have to go to the local hospital or the local clinic, even though the locals might not be paying anything for those medical expenses. But you, as a traveler, as a foreigner, you might be expected to. And most of the time, you actually will be expected to. So make sure you research that in advance. And if it is a requirement to enter the country, you might have to purchase the medical insurance for that period of time, for that week or 2 weeks of your travel. And of course, some exotic destinations will require certain vaccinations. They might not ask for it at the airport, but if you need a specific vaccination from measles or yellow fever in some Asian countries or South America, you will need to go to the local specialist. They offer these services in the United States through an independent nurses who will give you those vaccinations and certificates. And those vaccinations usually last only for a couple of years. They're not cheap and they're not covered by your health insurance. So if you have to have certain vaccinations done, if you're going on the safari to Africa or if you're going to Asia, please research that in advance because those are going to be expensive. They vary from $500 to a few $1,000s per vaccination. They will be good for 3 or 5 years, but at the same time, it's still very expensive. And you might have to plan it in advance. It's always good to learn about somebody's culture and traditions in advance, especially if you're going to an exotic destination. If you're visiting Arab countries, they will have specific dress code for women. You will have to have long clothes, long dresses. It goes the same for Europe. If you're visiting a cathedral or a church that requires you to wear something on your head, covering your shoulders, covering your knees, you will not be allowed to get in if you're wearing a tank top because it's hot, or shorts. You will have to wear a specific dress. In some countries like Dubai, before women are allowed to enter into the mosque or some religious historic sites, they were offering you some coats that you would have to put on top of your clothes and something to cover your head. So you will need to bring a scarf, you will need to look up what is the dress code, especially if you're purchasing entrance tickets to some of those mosques and places of worship. Even the travel agency will warn you about your dress code and what you need to bring, what you need to wear. Some countries will have certain traditions for visitors. For instance, when I went to Cuba, it was expected to bring different gifts and souvenirs for the locals. It could be shampoos, soap, and some basic necessities because this country is so poor that the locals don't even have soap. It's always recommended to bring gifts like this for the locals. The 10th item on my checklist is cash or money. If you're going to a specific country, most of the time they would not take US dollars. Almost all the places I visited would take your credit card, whether it's a MasterCard or a Visa. But sometimes it's good to bring cash. You can get it at the ATM at the airport, but you will have to pay hefty fees for those ATMs. The best way to handle it is ordering that cash at your bank before you leave the country. It might take a couple of weeks to get your cash, but you will have to pay least amount of fees, and the bank's rate for that currency will be most favorable. It's also good to have cash on hand to pay for tips, maybe taxis, or buy a drink or a street food. But if you're relying on your credit cards, make sure the credit card that you're bringing doesn't have foreign transaction fees. Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate your support. Please don't forget to like it and subscribe to my channel. And I will see you soon.